Garden of Eden. Garden of Eden is described in Genesis as the first dwelling place of humanity, created by God as a perfect environment, where Adam and Eve lived in direct fellowship with him. The Bible places Eden at the source of 4 rivers, the Pishon, Gihon, Tigris, and Euphrates, which has led to centuries of speculation about its geographic location. Despite many theories, no confirmed location exists today. After Adam and Eve disobeyed God, they were expelled from Eden, and cherubim were placed to guard the way back, preventing human return. This detail suggests Eden was no longer accessible to the fallen world. Some scholars believe Eden may have been destroyed or drastically altered by events such as the flood, while others interpret it as a sacred space that no longer exists in physical form. The Bible never explains its fate directly, leaving Eden's location and current status unresolved.
Land of Nod. Land of Nod appears in Genesis as the place where Cain settled after being banished for killing his brother Abel. The Bible describes it only briefly, saying it lay east of Eden, but gives no further geographic details. The name Nod is closely related to a Hebrew word meaning wandering or exile, which fits Cain's punishment of being a restless wanderer on the earth. This has led many scholars to suggest that Nod may not refer to a specific fixed location, but rather a symbolic region representing separation from God's presence. Cain builds a city there, which raises questions about who else lived in the area, questions the Bible does not directly answer. Because Scripture offers no additional references or descriptions, the land of Nod remains one of the Bible's most ambiguous and debated places, blending geography with symbolism.
City of Enoch. City of Enoch is mentioned briefly in Genesis as the first city ever built, founded by Cain after he settled in the land of Nod. Cain names the city after his son, Enoch, which may reflect an attempt to establish permanence despite God's judgment that he would be a wanderer. The Bible gives no description of the city's size, location, or structure, and it is never mentioned again in Scripture. This silence has led many scholars to view the city of Enoch as symbolic rather than historically traceable. It may represent humanity's early move toward urban life, independence, and self-reliance apart from God. Others see it as evidence that early civilization developed quickly after the fall. Because no archaeological or biblical details clarify its fate, the city of Enoch remains a mysterious and unlocatable place, known only through a single fleeting reference.
Mount Ararat. Mount Ararat is identified in Genesis as the place where Noah's Ark came to rest after the floodwaters receded. The Bible refers to the mountains of Ararat, which suggests a region rather than a single peak. Today, Mount Ararat is commonly associated with a large volcanic mountain in modern-day eastern Turkey, though this identification is based on tradition rather than explicit biblical confirmation. Over the centuries, many expeditions have searched for remains of the Ark on or near this mountain, but no discovery has been universally accepted as authentic. Some scholars argue that the original location may refer to the ancient kingdom of Urartu instead of the modern mountain. Because Scripture provides no precise coordinates or further details, the exact landing place of the Ark remains uncertain and debated among historians, theologians, and explorers alike.
Sheol is described in the Old Testament as the realm of the dead, a shadowy place where both the righteous and the wicked go after death. Unlike later ideas of heaven and hell, Sheol is not clearly portrayed as a place of punishment or reward. Instead, it is associated with silence, darkness, and separation from the land of the living. Psalms, Job, and other books speak of Sheol as being below, reinforcing the idea of descent rather than judgment. The Bible never gives a physical location for Sheol, nor does it explain its structure or boundaries. Over time, Jewish and Christian thought developed more defined concepts of the afterlife, but Sheol remains vague and mysterious within Scripture itself. Its true nature, whether literal, symbolic, or transitional, is never fully clarified.
Tower of Babel. Tower of Babel appears in Genesis as a massive construction project built by humanity after the flood. The people gathered in the land of Shinar and decided to build a city and a tower with its top in the heavens to make a name for themselves and prevent being scattered across the earth. God intervened by confusing their language, causing communication to break down and the project to be abandoned. As a result, the people were scattered, and the place was called Babel, meaning confusion.
The Bible does not describe the tower's final appearance or exact location, though it is often associated with ancient Mesopotamian ziggurats. Whether the tower was destroyed, left unfinished, or eroded over time is never explained. Scripture focuses on the theological meaning rather than the physical remains, leaving its ultimate fate unknown.
Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai is the mountain where Moses received the Ten Commandments and where Israel entered into a covenant with God after the Exodus from Egypt. The Bible describes Sinai as a place of thunder, fire, smoke, and divine presence, emphasizing its holiness and danger. Despite its importance, Scripture never clearly identifies its geographic location. Several sites have been proposed, including mountains in the Sinai Peninsula and regions of modern-day Saudi Arabia, but none have been definitively proven. Even the Bible sometimes refers to the same mountain as Horeb, adding to the uncertainty. After Israel left the area, Sinai fades from the biblical narrative and is never revisited. The mountain's exact location, name usage, and present condition remain unresolved, making it one of the most significant yet geographically mysterious places in the Bible.
Wilderness of Zin is mentioned several times during Israel's journey through the desert after leaving Egypt. It is associated with key moments of rebellion, judgment, and transition, including the incident where Moses struck the rock instead of speaking to it, an act that prevented him from entering the Promised Land. The Bible places the Wilderness of Zin near Kadesh Barnea on the southern edge of Canaan, but its exact boundaries are never clearly defined. It is often confused with the Wilderness of Sin, a different location, which adds to the uncertainty. Zin appears to function as a harsh borderland, a place between promise and fulfillment, rather than a destination. After Israel moves on, the wilderness disappears from the narrative. Because Scripture gives only limited geographic detail and overlapping names, the precise location and extent of the Wilderness of Zin remain debated and unclear.
Tarshish. Tarshish is mentioned throughout the Old Testament as a distant land associated with wealth, ships, and long sea voyages. It is most famously linked to the story of Jonah, who attempted to flee to Tarshish to escape God's command, suggesting it was viewed as the farthest place imaginable. The Bible never clearly identifies where Tarshish was located. Some scholars associate it with southern Spain, others with regions in North Africa, Sardinia, or even farther west. Scripture refers to ships of Tarshish, which may indicate either ships that traveled there or a type of large trading vessel rather than a specific destination. Because Tarshish is described more by its distance and trade significance than by geography, its true location remains uncertain. The Bible leaves Tarshish intentionally vague, emphasizing symbolism over precise mapping. Magog is mentioned in the book of Ezekiel as a distant land associated with Gog, a powerful leader who will rise against God's people in a future conflict. Magog is portrayed as a remote and threatening region, often described as coming from the far north, but the Bible never provides clear geographic boundaries. In Genesis, Magog is also listed as a descendant of Japheth, linking the name to an ancient people group rather than a single city. Over time, interpreters have connected Magog to various regions, including areas north of Israel, such as Anatolia, the Caucasus, or Central Asia. Others view Magog as symbolic, representing hostile nations opposed to God rather than a specific location. Because biblical references mix genealogy, prophecy, and symbolism, Magog's identity and location remain uncertain and highly debated.
Third heaven. Third heaven is mentioned briefly by the Apostle Paul in 2 Corinthians, where he describes being caught up to this realm and hearing things that could not be spoken. The Bible never explains what the third heaven is, but the wording implies a layered view of the cosmos. In ancient Jewish thought, the first heaven referred to the sky, the second heaven to outer space or the stars, and the third heaven to the dwelling place of God. Scripture does not confirm this structure directly, nor does it describe the third heaven's appearance, location, or boundaries. Paul does not clarify whether his experience was physical or spiritual, adding to the mystery. Because this place is mentioned only once and without detail, the third heaven remains one of the Bible's most enigmatic references to the unseen realm.
Patmos. Patmos is a small, rocky island in the Aegean Sea where the Apostle John was exiled during the Roman Empire. According to the book of Revelation, it was on Patmos that John received a series of visions concerning the end times, heaven, and the final judgment. The Bible presents Patmos as a place of isolation and suffering, yet also as a place of divine revelation. While the island itself is a real, identifiable location, Scripture provides no details about where on the island John was when these visions occurred, or how the experiences unfolded physically. It is unclear whether the visions were received all at once or over time. Patmos stands out as a place where human exile and divine communication intersect, making it mysterious not because of its location, but because of what was revealed there.
Babylon the Great. Babylon the Great appears in the book of Revelation as a powerful, corrupt entity that opposes God and persecutes his people. It is described using vivid imagery of wealth, immorality, and global influence, symbolized as a great city ruling over the nations. While the name recalls the ancient city of Babylon in Mesopotamia, Revelation does not clearly state that it refers to the literal historical city. Many interpreters believe Babylon the Great represents a symbolic system, such as a corrupt empire, political power, or religious structure, rather than a single physical location. Others argue it points to a real city with end-time significance. The Bible never clarifies whether Babylon the Great is literal, symbolic, or a combination of both. Its identity, location, and form remain intentionally ambiguous, reinforcing its role as a symbol of human power in rebellion against God.
Armageddon. Armageddon is mentioned in the book of Revelation as the gathering place for the final battle between the forces of good and evil. The name comes from the Hebrew phrase Har Megiddo, meaning Mount Megiddo. Yet there is no actual mountain at the ancient city of Megiddo, only a large hill or plain. This has raised questions about whether Armageddon refers to a literal geographic location or a symbolic battlefield. Megiddo itself was the site of many historical battles, making it a fitting symbol of conflict and judgment. Revelation does not describe the battle's physical details or terrain, focusing instead on its spiritual and cosmic significance. Because Scripture provides minimal explanation and uses symbolic language, Armageddon's exact nature, literal, symbolic, or both, remains one of the most debated and mysterious locations in biblical prophecy.
Lake of Fire. Lake of Fire is described in the book of Revelation as the ultimate destination for Satan, death, and those whose names are not found in the book of life. It is portrayed as a place of final judgment, following the last resurrection and judgment before God's throne. The Bible uses intense imagery, fire, punishment, and permanence, but does not explain whether the lake of fire is a literal location or a symbolic representation of eternal separation from God. Unlike Sheol or Hades, the lake of fire appears only in the final chapters of Scripture, emphasizing its role at the end of history. Revelation does not describe its size, location, or physical nature, only its purpose. Because the language is apocalyptic and symbolic, interpreters disagree on how literally it should be understood. The Bible offers no clarification beyond these vivid descriptions, leaving its true nature unresolved.
New Jerusalem. New Jerusalem is described in the final chapters of Revelation as a glorious city descending from heaven, prepared by God as an eternal dwelling place for his people. It is portrayed with vivid imagery, streets of gold, gates of pearl, and foundations adorned with precious stones. Yet these details may be symbolic rather than architectural. The Bible states that God himself dwells there, removing the need for a temple, sun, or moon. Unlike earthly cities, New Jerusalem is not built by human hands and does not exist within the current world order. Scripture does not explain whether it will physically descend onto the earth, exist in a renewed creation, or remain a heavenly reality beyond human geography. Because Revelation blends symbolism with promise, the exact nature, location, and structure of the New Jerusalem remain mysterious, serving more as a vision of restored relationship with God than a mapped destination. If you enjoyed learning about the mysterious places in the Bible, check out this video that dives into some of the Bible's unsolved mysteries.